All aware of the pressures that our health service have been under for the last few months and have seen the conditions and shortages that the hospitals and hospices around Hertfordshire have been faced with. And one initiative to address those shortages is the NHS Trusts and Hospices Wish List Appeal. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined on the line this morning by the patron and driving force behind that appeal, the Lord Lieutenant of Hertfordshire, Mr. Robert Voss, CBE. Good morning, Robert. Are you on the line with us?
Good morning, I am indeed.
Welcome to Radio Verulam and to our show. Before we talk about your appeal itself, could we just spend a few moments talking about your role? Many of our listeners obviously will be familiar with you and your work, and some will have heard the term Lord Lieutenant without really understanding what that means. So what exactly is the role of Lord Lieutenant of Hertfordshire?
Well, I'm appointed by Her Majesty the Queen, and I am her personal representative for the county of Hertfordshire. So I carry out a raft of duties on her behalf. The principal duty of any Lord Lieutenant is to uphold the dignity of the Crown. But having said that, I carry out a raft of duties, including things like presentations of Queen's Awards for Enterprise, Queen's Awards for Voluntary Service, British Empire medals, occasionally an MBE, and then represent Her Majesty in a number of other ways, as well as organising and welcoming any royal visitors who come to the county, which sadly is not going to happen at the moment, but hopefully will in the future. So my role is basically to do whatever Her Majesty wishes me to do, and I'm helped and assisted by a number of deputy lieutenants, and that is governed by the population of the county. So Hertfordshire, with a population of nearly 1.2 million, I'm allowed to appoint 57 deputies. At the moment, I have, as of today, 47 appointed who help me with all the duties that I have to carry out.
So any one of the 47 could attend in your stead at an event which you're representing the Crown?
Indeed. They are exactly what the word says. They are deputies and they deputise for me. Having said that, we do an awful lot more than just attend events. I have set up the deputies. I've set up a number of panels, 14 panels. Between us all, we have a lot of expertise and experience, and I wanted to encompass those. So we have a panel for health, we have a panel for education, we have a panel for social responsibility, we have a panel for business, etc., as well as panels covering the 4 areas of the county, so that I and everybody else is kept up to date with what's going on in the 4 corners of the county. And we are quite a widespread county, as you can imagine. And each of the panels is responsible for their particular area of expertise. So we have many medics, for example, who are deputy lieutenants, and it makes sense to encompass all their medical experience. And in fact, they're the panel who are assisting me, which I'm sure we'll come on to on the wish list appeals. So we do a lot more. We also get out to talk to the people of the county. We represent, as I say, Her Majesty, and we do report back. I do report back to Buckingham Palace. So people often say, does Her Majesty knows what goes on in Hertfordshire? Yes, indeed, she does. And of course, my predecessor's predecessor, Sir Simon Bowes-Lyon, is her first cousin. And Her Majesty, therefore, has an affinity with the county and is very keen to know what goes on here.
That was the Countess of Verulam.
Countess of Verulam was my immediate predecessor, indeed. The Countess was enrolled for 10 years and did a fantastic job. But her predecessor, Sir Simon Bowes-Lyon, is the Queen's first cousin. So yes, Her Majesty does know and is interested with what goes on in the county of Hertfordshire.
So I read that your personal mission is to take the lieutenancy to the people of Hertfordshire. What does that mean, and why is that important to you?
I think if you stopped 100 people in St Albans High Street outside the museum and you said to them, what do you know about the Lord Lieutenant or the Lieutenancy? I should imagine 95 of them would look at you blankly and say, I have no idea what you're talking about. We have a very important role in, as I say, not only representing Her Majesty, but also in facilitating and putting people together. We have fantastic contacts, as I've explained, and I think we have a duty to try and get out to as many of the people as Hertfordshire and say, here we are, what can we do to help? That is, in my opinion, a key part of the role that Her Majesty wants us to undertake. So I think it's important that we get as much information out to the people of Hertfordshire about who we are and what we can do, and we're doing that through broadcasts such as yourselves, as we're doing today. We have a very active website, and we are basically getting out amongst the people as much as we can.
So hopefully, you say 95 people out of 100 in St Albans wouldn't know that. Perhaps it'll be different after this broadcast.
I would hope so. I mean, I'm guessing maybe St Albans is different. Maybe it's 50-50. I would hope if it is, then I've certainly succeeded in the first tranche of my term of office.
Well, I certainly hope so. In addition to your formal role as the Lord Lieutenant, you're patron and chairman of a great number of charities and not-for-profit enterprises. Is that related to the lieutenancy, or is that a remnant of your business career?
Mostly related. Well, I say related to the lieutenancy. You know, we have a fantastic number of charities in Hertfordshire, estimated at around 4,000, all doing marvellous work. And if I can help in any way, any of those by being patron and flying their flag, I'm happy to do so. Obviously, I have to restrict the number. There are still only 24 hours in my day and 7 days in my week. So I'm very happy to have taken on the patronage of a number in a variety of different fields. And I think that's the important thing. So one or two were left over from my business days, and one or two are national charities that I'm particularly involved with and particularly keen on supporting. But locally, I'm very keen to support and very happy to keep supporting so many of our wonderful local charities who do such a vital work, particularly at the moment.
Yes, even here at Radio Verulam, charities are desperate for publicity and the support that they need to keep going. But you're going to talk to us about one particular appeal today, one particular cause which you're the driving force behind, as I mentioned earlier on, the NHS Trusts and Hospices Wish List Appeal. We'll take a break in just a second, but could you just tell us what that is in basic terms?
They're two separate entities. So I was contacted originally by the chair of the East and North Herts NHS Trust, Ellen Schroeder, who said, look, we have a number of items on our wish list, things that we can't necessarily get from the NHS, or we're not getting through the NHS, and other things such as very simple things such as biscuits and sweets, and are you able to help? And we then got in touch with the chair of the West Herts NHS Trust, and also we included the PAH Trust in Harlow because, of course, they cover a lot of the great swathes of East Hertfordshire. And we said, look, put together a wish list of what you want and we'll go out to the public and see what we can do. I'll come on to how that went, but that went fantastically well. And I've now started a similar thing for the hospices, and we'll explain to you in a minute exactly why I think the hospices is a special case.
Thank you, Lord Lieutenant. We'll come back to talk about that in more detail, but let's just take a quick break now, and please stay with us here on Radio Verulam. We'll be continuing this discussion in just a minute. And welcome back to Radio Verulam. I'm joined on the line by the Lord Lieutenant of Hertfordshire, Mr. Robert Voss, CBE. And we're talking this morning about the role of the lieutenancy in Hertfordshire, but also about a particular cause which Robert is the driving force behind. That is, two things, the NHS Trusts and Hospices Wish List Appeal. And just before the break, you were telling us what was happening in this appeal. You are going out to the health trusts and subsequently the hospices to find out the things that they weren't able to get from the health service, the things that they needed, and try to find a way to provide that for them. So how has that been going?
Well, let's take them as two entities, if we may. The NHS Wish List Appeal, which started, about 6 weeks ago, has been a fantastic success. So a variety of things have been donated by the kind public. For example, they wanted some iPads for patients in ICU and intensive care units, basically, very sadly, so they could see their families and on many occasions actually say goodbye to their families, as obviously visiting is not possible. I asked several companies who I know, and one company who I presented a Queen's Award for Enterprise to a couple of years ago in the telephone industry. I asked if they could source 1 or 2 iPads. I didn't hear anything for 3 days, and they came back and said, would you like 250 brand new large iPhones? Which was just absolutely fantastic. Value £75,000, and they are now in the 3 main hospitals in the ICUs, doing a marvellous job. So the NHS wish list has gone fantastically well. Donations coming from all over the place, food being cooked, donuts being delivered. There's one company who are delivering every morning 800 cakes and buns for the night shift as they come off duty. Beds, it's been absolutely fantastic.
It certainly brings out the best of people, doesn't it? When we're faced with a challenge like this, the generosity of the people and companies of Britain is extraordinary.
Absolutely, and of course, on the back of what Captain Tom has done, this has been fantastic for the NHS. Moving on to the hospices, which we've started recently, I'm very concerned. We have 5 hospices in Hertfordshire, and I've included 2 on the periphery, Keach in Luton and Noah's Ark in Barnet, both of which cover Hertfordshire and are both specifically exclusively for children, and St Clair's Hospice on the border in Bishop Stortford. So we've 8 hospices. The problem that a lot of people don't understand is hospices, unlike the NHS, are small individual charities who are self-funded to a great extent. The vast majority of their funding does not come from the NHS. The vast majority is self-funded, a lot of which comes from their retail outlets, which of course are closed. So unlike the NHS, they have had to furlough a lot of their extraneous staff. But of course, hospices, the demand for hospices is enormous, because so many people are not attending hospital for life-threatening illnesses such as cancer, heart, lung, etc., as we've seen in the press this week. And those people are going to need end-of-life care, and that is provided by the hospices for many years to come.
So you've refocused your appeal onto the hospices specifically. What kind of things are they looking for? When you talk about a wish list for hospices, what are they trying to obtain?
Well, my wonderful health panel of 10 of us are putting together a wish list which we update every week. It ranges from some rather complex things like syringe drivers, which I gather are quite expensive. We've sourced, for example, a washing machine and tumble dryer for one of them. We've sourced lawnmower for another because they had to furlough their gardener. These are simple things one doesn't even consider. Toys for the children's hospice, clothes, bedding, and then such other things to make the lives of the nursing staff much more pleasant. So food and drink when the staff go out on community, when the nurses go out into the community, which of course is now a considerable work for hospices, community work, where people prefer to die at home or choose to die at home. We've given them drink, we've given them food, sandwiches to take with them. So the list is exhaustive, I would say. It's huge, but public are being fantastically generous, local companies, individuals. I had a coach company contact me this morning and firstly donated £500 to the appeal, and secondly said their coaches are available should anybody need transport, and when possible they'd like to take a group of children out to the seaside. These type of things are incredibly heartwarming and incredibly generous, and the hospices are absolutely delighted.
So how can the people who are listening to us today find out about what is actually on the wish list?
Very simply, on our website, and I'll give you the web address if I may, we update all the time, not only what's on the wish list, but huge amounts of information locally about things going on and people and areas that can help during the current crisis. But if I may give you the
Please
web
do,
address,
yes.
It's Lord-Lieutenant-Hearts, HERTS.org.uk. And on there, we have an updated wish list and also the instructions if anybody wants to donate money to the hospice appeal. And 100% of those funds will, of course, go to the various hospices or to buy items on the list. One item, to give you an example, is what's called a cold blanket. Now, I didn't know what a cold blanket was. Very sadly, it's a blanket that is needed, a very expensive blanket, quite specific things. And if we can raise enough money to support the hospices, I would be delighted.
So we will give that address out again at the end of the interview. But could you just, while people have got their pens and pencils in hand, could you just read out that web address again for them?
Absolutely. It's Lord-Lieutenant Load-Hearts, HERTS.org.uk.
Thank you. So obviously some of the very specialist equipment is going to be beyond the reach of individual people. But what sort of things right now could they donate? And I assume that you would not be averse to people donating money as well in order to centrally buy these things. But what sort of things are you looking for right now for people to donate?
Well, there are simple things like cutlery is on there. We're talking about new cutlery, basically. Crockery, aprons, and not only specific medical aprons, but also aprons for people to serve food. As far as the medical aprons are concerned, we have a number of wonderful ladies around the county who are sewing aprons with specific material that we've purchased from the fund that will also go out to the hospices. Masks, of course. Everybody needs masks these days, not only for the staff, but also when visitors are allowed back into the hospices. Toys for the children. Even we've had donations of 2,000 bottles of water. So the list is extensive. I won't read it out to you. People can find it on the website.
And you're still also looking for donations for the NHS trusts as well, but primarily your focus is on the hospices right now.
Yes, it's a difficult one. I mean, the trusts have been very well supported by the public. As I say, Captain Tom did a marvellous job, and also are well supported by the government through the NHS. The hospices perhaps less so, and as I said before, I think my feeling is that the demand for end-of-life and palliative care is going to be extended well past the end of this pandemic that we're currently experiencing.
So we will give the address out that people can go to look at the lists in particular, and I'm sure we're going to get a huge response from the listeners of Radio Verulam. They've supported other causes in the past, and I'm sure this will be no different to that. How do you believe the people, and indeed the infrastructure of Hertfordshire, have coped with the crisis that we're undergoing right now?
I think exceptionally well. In a recent conversation with the Chief Constable, he mentioned that he was very pleased and very impressed with the way that the people of Hertfordshire have responded. Of course, there are going to be one or two people who perhaps cross the line a little bit. But I think in general, people not only in Hertfordshire but across the country have responded very well. Of course, this week people are now beginning to move back to work in some industries, which will change things. We've seen pictures of what's going on in public transport. But I think generally people realise this is a very, very serious condition. It's not going to go away. And we all need to protect ourselves and the others in the community. I think the world will be different from here on in. I think there will be some advantages. I think certainly the community spirit that is shown by people not only in this county but all over the country has been outstanding. And I think that will continue. People have actually got to meet their neighbours, albeit sometimes virtually. I think from that point of view, I think people's travel arrangements will also change. I think the way people work is going to change. Video conferencing is now almost the norm, and I think a lot of people realise it can be done. So when we come out of this, I think it will be a different world, but I'm hoping and I believe it will be a better world.
Indeed. Lord Lieutenant, Mr. Robert Vos CB, thank you for joining us today and for telling us about your appeal. Just that address one more time. If you want to look at the wish lists for the 8 hospices around Hertfordshire and, of course, the wish lists for the NHS trusts, they're available to look at on the website lord-lieutenant-hearts.org.uk. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us on Radio Verulam today. Thank you for giving up your time at what must be an extremely busy time for you. We do appreciate it very much. And thank you for talking to the good people of St. Albans.
Thank you. And can I just thank the people of St. Albans for everything they're doing? And I know it's a huge amount to support the community.